Hey, good morning, everyone. Bear with me for a sec here while we get everything queued up. Always got to check the video and the audio here, but this morning we're going to enter into our discussion of leaky brain part 2. So, like I said, we'll give people a couple minutes here to join up with us, and then we'll get started. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath. Had some patients this morning and have been just doing so much work for this open house next week. Let's see. Edit here. Which, by the way, that brings up a great point. I want to personally invite everyone out to the new clinic here next Wednesday, August 23rd from 4 to 8 p.m. It'll be very casual, but we're really excited about having lots of different things, actually. Chef Christy is going to be providing us with some delicious, healthy food. We're going to have protein cheesecakes by my good friend John. He just started this awesome protein cheesecake company. And we're also going to have a raffle with a lot of prizes and opportunities for people to elevate their health and family wellness lifestyle. Just off the top of my head, we have, if you've heard of Indigo Salon over here in Canton, we're going to have an opportunity to start learning more about them and getting some of their services. We're going to have a lot of training opportunities from different local training gyms, so Power Performance, In Flow, maybe even a couple others. Sandstone Massage over on Beck Road and 10 Mile, I believe, will have some opportunities. Let's see, what else? Some life coaching and counseling services will be offered. So the way it works, guys, is all you have to do to enter into the raffle is attend and join us for, even if you can only stay for 20, 30 minutes, something like that, that's totally fine. If you have to head out before we do the actual raffle drawing, you can still actually be able to receive those prizes and opportunities regardless of whether or not you're actually present there still or not. Okay. So what I want to pick up with is homotrophic modulation. So let me just adjust the screen here for a second. And I actually like to have this view to where I can see this part and this at the same time here. Awesome. All right, you guys, so here we go. Homotrophic modulation. All right, so big fancy word. What does that mean? When you talk about neurotransmitters, there are 4 main neurotransmitters. Okay, a lot of people have heard of GABA, dopamine, serotonin, and I'm blanking on the third one. I need some brain support. Dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and acetylcholine. There it is. So homotrophic modulation is a specific concept that applies to acetylcholine. All right. So this is the model that we see clinically. When you have someone that's taking an SSRI, or you have someone that's taking a benzodiazepine, or when you have someone that's taking a D2 blocker or a D2 agonist, those receptors develop sensitivity. Okay, they become sensitized. So to use an analogy, with diabetes, with type 2 onset diabetes, your receptors become sensitized to insulin because you have so much insulin coursing through your body. Okay, so that's like a hormonal model. With neurotransmitters, there is a similar relationship. There's a similar concept, essentially. Okay, neurotransmitters will also be sensitized. All right, so you can be sensitized to GABA. You can be sensitized to dopamine. You can be sensitized to sensitized to serotonin. Okay, basically that receptor will become numb or null to external factors over time. Such is not the case with acetylcholine. So that's why acetylcholine is so important. This is what homotrophic modulation means, okay? Huperzine and galantamine, okay, increase vagal tone by enhancing acetylcholine function, okay? So we have acetylcholine receptors in the brain, we have acetylcholine receptors in the gut. Our skeletal muscles require acetylcholine to function. This is why acetylcholine is so important, because it's everywhere. It is ubiquitous throughout the body, okay? So when we have someone, if we're trying to prevent early onset brain degeneration, or if we have issues with short-term memory, if we have Alzheimer's or dementia issues, supporting the body's acetylcholine pathways is very, very, very important, okay? That's where huperzine comes in, that's where galantamine comes in, and that's where we can increase vagal nerve function, okay? If you go back to part 1 of our talk here, vagal nerve function is so important, okay? So this is just an example of acetyl-CH active. I have a lot of patients using this, and they get fantastic results, okay? Because we're helping the function of acetylcholine, and we're not going to sensitize acetylcholine receptors by doing these therapies. All right? Also, here we have our comic relief, a little brain fart there. I was having a little bit of a brain fart earlier myself, just trying to remember acetylcholine. All right. Again, just to further illustrate the point, SSRIs, benzodiazepines, D2 blockers, they rob the body's ability to make neurotransmitters, the synthesis, that's called synthesis, and they use them for receptor sensitivity and proper brain function. All right? Again, when you look at depression, you know, and this is old information, guys, but when you look at the causes of work disability, depression's really high up there. Okay, in 1955, 38,000 people were diagnosed as clinically depressed. Okay, today, or even maybe a year or two ago, we were up to 9 million. All right, so the acute situations, I mean, yes, you can fix with diet, exercise, and lifestyle. All those things are very important. But when you have chronic depression, when you have those really tough cases, you can cause brain degeneration is a downstream effect of that chronic depression, okay, along with constipation, memory deficits, all the things that we've been talking here on these webinars with Leaky Brain, okay? And here's the other thing, everyone. It's always depression and something else, okay? It's never just depression on its own isolated, okay? So it's depression and insomnia, or it's depression and fatigue, or depression and brain fog, or depression and anxiety, okay? It's never just depression. That's one of my favorite quotes from actually Dr. Karazian. And we can talk a lot about the hippocampus, that part of the brain where so much cortical function is passed through to actually fire those neurons and to fire that vagus nerve and that sort of thing, okay? Specifically, we're talking about the cingulate gyrus, okay? And that has to do with the frontal cortex. All right, let's talk more about the vagus nerve. There are motor and sensory components of pretty much all of our nerves, okay? A lot of our nerves, they're either only motor nerves or they're only sensory nerves, okay? So motor and sensory. The vagus nerve has two components, okay? It's both a motor nerve for the function of our gut motility, but it's also autonomic, okay? So motor equals that gut motility, but autonomic means the blood flow to the gut, which is kind of subconscious, if you will, okay? So here's the thing, guys. All of the supplements that we take, all of the nutritional medicines, those are very, very, very important, but we need to have proper blood flow to the intestines via the circulatory system, and that's where that autonomic component of the vagus nerve comes in. So you've heard me talk about nitric oxide, you've heard me talk about things like the beamer. There are natural ways to increase vascular function, cardiovascular function naturally, that will assist in the function of the vagus nerve. Nitric oxide is one of those ways. So honestly, this is a whole presentation on its own. Nitric oxide, an entire presentation on its own. We'll have to go through that at a later date for another webinar, but right now let's go ahead and move on. When blood flow is compromised, combined with low vagal nerve activity, you lose the ability to regenerate your gut. there are many tissues in our body that regenerate at different rates and levels. Okay, our gut, our gastrointestinal system, has one of the higher rates of cellular turnover when compared to other tissues of the body. Okay, so for example, our skeletal system, we have a new skeletal system, probably every couple years. Okay, the liver that you have today is different than the liver that you had 10 years ago because of cellular turnover, cellular regeneration. Okay, our gut turns over very quickly within weeks. Okay, so we have to have good blood flow and good vagal nerve activity to support that. How many people have ever felt dizzy after they stand up? That's called orthostatic hypotension. Okay, the reason why you feel dizzy when you stand up quickly is because of low adrenals, low blood sugar, and the stressful lifestyles that we lead. Okay, getting lightheaded when you go upstairs. Okay, blood circulation to the brain is crucial. That's why you feel a little lightheaded when you stand up. Okay, this also has to go along with a couple thyroid symptoms. Cold hands and cold feet all the time can be caused by low adrenals, which can cause low thyroid, things like that. So all of this is related. So that's what we do here at the clinic, is we look at all these factors and we form the clinical picture to help that individual person the best as possible. Okay? Honestly, I'm going to fly through some things here. We do measure nitric oxide levels here in the office, if you've been to any of my live events before. And so we're going to go on to leaky gut and leaky brain. Again, the microbiome, incredibly important. Okay, we have so much microbes in our gut, and we need to maintain a healthy balance of gut diversity in the microbiome. Okay, so if everyone's taking the same probiotic over and over again, that's not really cultivating diversity. What you really want is the diversity of the probiotic cultures. Okay, and you can get very specific with the genus, the species, and the strain of the probiotic that you're using. Okay, again, diversification is key. So much of our immune system comes from the gut here, and that's why it's just so important to talk about and address. Where do we get our microbiomes from? We get it from mom. We get it from our mothers. It comes from when we go down the birth canal. So when you consider that so many babies today are being born via cesarean section, you can see why I'm not saying this is causation, I'm just saying there's perhaps correlation between the rising rates of all these childhood illnesses, ADD, ADHD, autism, all of these things, and the rising rates of cesarean delivery. Now, I'm glad that we have those options for people, but it does present a little bit of an issue when you look at that child's microbiome, because they're just not getting that support from going down the birth canal. Great videos here, the NPR Invisible Universe, the Human Microbiome, and this TED Talk here from Elaine, Mind-Altering Microbes, How the Microbiome Affects Brain and Behavior. So here's a big thought for you guys. What if we could, without invasive or dependence on promoting procedures, or dependence promoting procedures, so surgery, medications, we could treat autism, depression, obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, multiple sclerosis, all of these different things. Again, here is a outline of all the different things that can be going wrong with the gut or pathology. Okay, we have the hepatic flexure over here. Okay, we have the ileocecal valve down here right by the appendix. Right here by the cecum, okay, of the large intestine. This is the junctional area between the small intestine and the large intestine. Okay, so when this valve is dysfunctional, what you can get is a condition called SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Most of the bacterial colonies need to be here in the colon, okay, not in the small intestine. So when this valve is disruptive, then that's where you get the pathologies that we see here, okay, or some of them, specifically SIBO. All right, but people that have ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, you can get different cancers here in the colon, polyps. The great news is not only do chiropractic adjustments to the lumbar spine assist with these conditions here, but also there are manual things that we can do with our hands to help the function of the ileocecal valve. Okay? The reason I have this slide here is to go into a conversation of the organic coffee enemas. Okay? So when you insert a organic coffee enema into the rectum, into the anus here, you actually put pressure on that sacral plexus, okay, on that part of the vagus nerve. That sensation to evacuate, whether it be food or the enema, is a frontal lobe vagus nerve function, okay? So along with the functional exercises of gargling, gagging, singing, and humming, a great therapy for the vagus nerve is to perform a clean, safe, organic coffee enema. Okay? And the longer that you can suspend the enema before evacuating it, the stronger you will fire that nerve. Okay? So I tell my patients, those that are ready for this, to hold it as long as they can and to slowly progress to holding it longer. Okay? The other thing you can do is actually increase the concentration of the coffee so that it activates more acetylcholine receptors, because here's the thing. The caffeine in the coffee fires the acetylcholine nicotinic receptors. So there's the relationship, there's the function. Neurodegeneration versus neuroplasticity. The brain can grow and adapt if we stimulate it. Okay, so I really encourage you guys to use different apps like Lumosity, play Sudoku, do those vagus nerve functional neurology exercises that we've talked about. Very, very, very important. Here's another 30,000 foot view, guys. All of this is a wash if we can't regulate our blood sugar. Okay, there's certain deal breakers, as they call them, all right? Low blood sugar will cause waking up at night, feeling, so definitely being shaky and irritable. You'll feel better after you raise your blood sugar a little bit, but if our blood sugar is doing this all day long, the therapies that we do, here at the office with the adjustments, the exercises that you do at home, those vagus nerve exercises, you're not going to notice as much impact when we can't regulate our blood sugar. Okay? This gets into cortisol. This gets into bad sleep patterns and bad melatonin cortisol rhythms. So again, what we do here in the office and what we do with the chiropractic adjustments and those vagus nerve exercises needs to be regulated and supported by healthy blood sugar rhythms, or else the whole thing is a wash. All right, so I really encourage you guys check out some of these videos on YouTube, The Real Bears, The Skinny on Obesity, and Dr. Lustig is a great resource. The University of California, perfect resource to learn more about everything we're talking about here as it relates to sugar and the metabolic syndrome. And here's our little x-ray here of Homer with his little pea-sized brain. Glyphosate, guys. Our food is sprayed with toxins. As much as you can, I really encourage and exhort all of you, eat clean organic food as much as possible. Everything is just sprayed. We have such genetic modification these days, and not only are we spraying our food with it, spraying the plants that we eat, but now it's also being inserted into the DNA, into the genetics of our food. So I can't emphasize this enough. All right, we talked about that. So along with our microbiome, I encourage everyone to eat fermented foods, but quality fermented foods, good fermented foods. Okay, so when I say sauerkraut, I'm talking about real sauerkraut, not the sauerkraut that's in a bag laying down by the meat at the Kroger. Okay, I'm talking about the stuff that's in the can that has real live microorganisms in there that are beneficial for your gut. Or honestly, if you have the time and resources, make your own. That's the best way to do it. The practices of canning are very, very good. They're time consuming, but the reward for your health is tremendous. Okay, kombucha, kimchi, wine, beer, kefir. You get into some discussions of dairy here. Some people can't handle dairy. Naso is a fermented food, but I do caution people against using too much soy-based food because soy can be very estrogenic. All right. Donna Gates, very good resources. Very good resource if you want to do some of your own cultures at home. She has great little packets for people to actually start making some of their own basically your own kefir. It's fantastic. That way you can have control of what you're making. Essential fatty acids, very important for the brain. Your brain is fat, so you need to eat good fats. All of the EPAs, the DHAs, again, diversity is the key. It's not that I want people to only have EPA or DHA or things like that. The diversification of the omega-6, 9, of the omega, all of the omegas, okay, in context is very important. Yes, we can get specific about whether it's EPA or DHA for certain brain functions, but on the whole, you want to have a really good fish oil, a really good source of those healthy omega fats, essential fatty acids, okay? I do like Nordic Naturals. There's lots of good ones out there, but again, there's just a big difference between what you buy at Costco and what you buy at Meijer and the quality of the things that a licensed healthcare provider can equip you with. Moving along. All right, here's a great question. How many tastes can you name? All right. So specifically on our tongue, how many different tastes or sensations can you name? So you should be able to come up with at least more than just sweet. Okay, so sweet, sour, savory. We just had a great crepe night actually with our community group, and we had sweet crepes and we had savory crepes and just all the different ingredients. But here's a great comprehensive list. Okay, so we have salty, sweet, sour, savory, or umami, bitter, tart, and I would even argue acidic is a taste that we have on our tongue. Okay, so again, what's the point here? Neurologically, you should be able to identify all of these tastes. Okay, but the problem is, all of our food is so sweet that we really only know what sugar tastes like and sweet tastes like. We don't know what it really tastes like, what it really means for something to be sour or bitter. Okay, so that's why whenever we do have something that is bitter, we're like, oh, we can't handle it. But here's the thing: bitterness fires digestion in a unique way that none other of those tastes does. Okay, so when you have a bitter compound on your tongue, that fires your gustatory nerve that goes to your brain, that goes to your vagus, and fires along this neurotransmitter cascade to secrete CCK, to secrete all of these pancreatic and digestive enzymes, bile secretion, in the way that sweetness does not. Okay? So bitter foods are so important for our functional gut function. All right? Again, different ways to fire the vagus nerve. We've mentioned all these before. Hum or sing very loudly, gargle, do the gag reflex, the gag exercises. There's points in the ear, so if you look on this diagram right here, there's a branch of the vagus nerve that'll go right out to that little endpoint in the ear. Okay, so if you take a Q-tip or if you receive acupuncture care or even just use your finger, if you stimulate that part of your ear, you're helping to stimulate the vagus nerve. Okay, and of course, chiropractic adjustments, cervical spine, very, very, very important. All right. Aromatherapy. All right. When you look at frontal lobe function, when you look at brain function, the olfactory nerve, the sense of smell, again, I really like to identify those unique factors. Okay. So bitterness on the tongue, unique. Acetylcholine receptors in the body, unique. Aromatherapy, very unique, because the synapse of aromatherapy, the sense of smell, does not synapse in the thalamus first, like every other sense that we have. Sight, sound, touch, taste, all of that goes to the thalamus first and then to our brain. Aromatherapy olfaction goes straight to the frontal cortex, to the brain. So that's why when you smell something, it triggers memory, okay, immediately. So that's why I like using aromatherapy, using essential oils to powerfully impact the brain on a functional level in the way that nothing else can. Again, practical applications: bitter foods, fermented foods, fibers, probiotics, eating real food, the vagus nerve exercises, the organic coffee enemas, reducing stress and our sugar intake, getting good sleep. You guys, there's no panacea, but if there's one thing that you could do to profoundly impact your health, is being able to sleep well and to get a good night's rest. We can talk more about bone broths, avoiding GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and doing a yearly or a bi-yearly cleanse. Very, very, very important. As much as we like to be perfect and practical in everything that we do, doing a cleanse is very helpful for your health and prolonging your life because we just have such a toxic load. It's good for the body to cleanse on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. And then, of course, chiropractic adjustments. Again, more practical applications. Meditation, very good for our soul. Our reflex points, you can rub the sides of your legs to stimulate gut function and gut motility. There's a stomach alarm point for acupuncture. If you take your xiphoid process, the bottom of your sternum, and find your belly button, so you have those 2 points, go halfway in between, stimulate that point right there on your belly for improving stomach function, stomach release of gastric acid, and basically the HCl, the hydrochloric acid for the stomach, can be improved by rubbing that point right there. Okay? And of course your enzymes. There's a condition called hiatal hernia that we can fix with some chiropractic techniques. The ileocecal valve, the migrating motor complex, the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and of course gallbladder and bile support. So just in conclusion, everyone, this is why we do this. Okay, this is so impactful on such a foundational level that we are literally changing lives by these natural therapies, these natural techniques, and it's just such a passion of mine to be able to share that with you. We have this brand new beautiful office here at the clinic, and I just feel so thankful and grateful to be able to help people in this community, to be able to help families in this community in this profoundly natural way. If you guys haven't done so yet, I really encourage you to check out the Michigan Family Wellness Podcast on your iPhone and your Android. You can find that in your podcast app or on Google Play Music. And yeah, I really encourage you guys to give us a subscribe there, check us out. And in conclusion, everyone, if I haven't already mentioned it yet, the new clinic open house is coming up next Wednesday on August 23rd. I would love to see you guys there. It's from 4 to 8 p.m. here at the clinic at the office. If you just type in Michigan Family Wellness into your Google Maps or whatever map application that you use, it should pop right up. And like I said, we're going to have great food. We're going to have a raffle, and it's just going to be a great casual way to just further the community here, further the involvement of the community, and help people elevate their health and their family wellness lifestyle. All right, everyone. So I encourage you guys, definitely check out part 1 of Leaky Brain and also go back and reference the Leaky Gut webinar and look for more of these webinars that we'll be doing here on the Facebook Live within the group here. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.